The city courthouse's wide stone steps were shadowed by the morning sun as a steady stream of lawyers, clerks, and citizens entered. The marble columns cast long shadows. Judge Olivia Bennett, dressed in a crisp black suit and carrying a leather briefcase, paused at the bottom of the steps to take in the familiar scene. She had been in charge of this courthouse for close to a decade, and during that time, she had developed a reputation for fairness, wisdom, and a quiet strength that earned her the respect of everyone who entered her courtroom. Today, however, she felt a subtle tension in the air, a sense that something was different. She noticed a group of police officers huddled near the entrance, their uniforms spotless, and their faces set in expressions of authority as she began her ascent. Officer Ryan Caldwell, a young patrolman well known for his strict adherence of protocol and occasionally overzealous approach to security, stood in the middle. As Olivia approached, Caldwell stepped forward, blocking her path with an outstretched arm. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, his tone firm but not unkind. "This entrance has a limited access. You'll need to use the public entrance around the side." Olivia blinked, momentarily taken aback. She responded with a calm and measured voice, "I'm Judge Bennett. I have court in 20 minutes. Caldwell's eyes narrowed, his posture stiffening. "I'm sorry, but I haven't seen you here before. I'll need some proof of identity." Olivia pulled her judicial identification card out of her bag and held out for Caldwell to examine. He gave it and then her a skeptical glance before turning to her. "This could be anyone's," he said, handing it back. "I'm going to have to ask you to wait here while I verify your credentials." Sensing the tension, some passing motorists slowed down. Despite feeling a surge of anger, Olivia maintained her composure. "Officer, I assure you I am Judge Bennett. If you'd like, you can call the Chief Judge's office to confirm." Caldwell gave a head shake. "I've got my orders. Please wait here." Olivia stepped aside, her dignity intact, but her patience wearing thin. She watched as Caldwell spoke into his radio, his voice low and urgent. The other officers glanced at her, some with curiosity, others with discomfort. Minutes ticked by, and the courthouse steps grew crowded as more people arrived for the day's docket. Without allowing the stares or whispers to shake her, Olivia stood tall. She was aware that the truth would prevail because she had previously encountered greater difficulties. What she didn't know was that this morning's encounter would set off a chain of events that would challenge not only her own resolve, but the very culture of the courthouse itself. As the minutes dragged on, the crowd at the courthouse steps thickened, and the tension in the air became palpable. Lawyers and clerks who recognized Judge Bennett exchanged uneasy glances, some whispering among themselves, others hesitating to intervene. Olivia remained composed, her posture straight and her gaze unwavering. But inside she felt a familiar ache, a reminder of the countless times she had to prove herself in spaces where her authority should have been unquestioned. Officer Caldwell, meanwhile, paced a few feet away, radio in hand, his brow furrowed as he waited for a response from dispatch. A small voice in the back of his mind wondered if he was making a mistake, but he was determined to follow protocol. The radio finally came to life with a crackle. "Dispatch to Caldwell, Judge Bennett is confirmed. She is scheduled for this morning's third courtroom. Kindly permit her entry." As he turned to face Olivia, Caldwell's earlier self-assurance was replaced by a hint of shame. "You're clear to go in, Judge," he said, stepping aside. Olivia gave a gracious but cool nod. "Thank you, Officer Caldwell. I hope you'll think of me the next time." As the crowd parted to let her through, she walked past it with her head held high. Some offered quiet words of support, while others simply watched in silence, unsure how to process what they had witnessed. As the minutes dragged on, the crowd at the courthouse steps thickened, and the tension in the air became palpable. Lawyers and clerks who recognized Judge Bennett exchanged uneasy glances, some whispering among themselves, others hesitating to intervene. Olivia remained composed, her posture straight and her gaze unwavering, but inside she felt a familiar ache, a reminder of the countless times she'd had to prove herself in spaces where her authority should have been unquestioned. In the meantime, Officer Caldwell stood a few feet away with his radio in hand and furrowed his brow as he awaited a response from dispatch. He was determined to follow protocol, but a small voice in the back of his mind wondered if he was making a mistake. Finally, the radio crackled to life. "The confirmation of Judge Bennett is sent to Caldwell. She's scheduled for courtroom 3 this morning. Kindly permit her entry. Caldwell's face flushed as he turned to Olivia, his earlier confidence replaced by a flicker of embarrassment. You're clear to go in, Judge, he said, stepping aside. Olivia gave a gracious but cool nod. Thank you, Officer Caldwell. I trust you'll remember me next time. As the crowd parted to let her through, she walked past it with her head held high. Some offered quiet words of support, while others simply watched in silence, unsure how to process what they had witnessed. Inside the courthouse, word of the incident spread quickly. By the time Olivia reached her chambers, her clerk, Maria, was waiting with a concerned expression. Are you all right, Judge? She asked, closing the door behind them. Olivia managed a small smile. Maria, I'm fine. Just another day. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something needed to change as she settled at her desk. She had always believed in the power of the law to bring about justice, but she knew that justice was not just about verdicts and sentences. It was about respect, dignity, and the way people were treated every day. She decided then and there that she would not let the morning's events pass without action. Olivia called a meeting with the courthouse security chief and the presiding judge after her first hearing. She recounted the incident in detail, emphasizing not just her own experience, but the broader implications for anyone who might be treated with suspicion or disrespect at the courthouse doors. She said with a steady tone, "This is not just about me. It's about ensuring that everyone, judges, lawyers, jurors, witnesses, and the public, feels welcome and respected in this building. We cannot allow unconscious bias or rigid protocol to undermine the integrity of our institution." Harold Klein, a seasoned judge, presided over proceedings and listened intently. He had known Olivia for years and respected her deeply. "You're right, Olivia," he said. "We need to do better. I'll talk to the police chief and ask for a review of our security measures. Additionally, I would like you to assist in leading a training session for the officers. Provide them with your perspective and help them comprehend what is at stake." Olivia agreed, recognizing the opportunity to turn a moment of frustration into a catalyst for change. Meanwhile, Officer Caldwell, still stung by the morning's events, found himself the subject of quiet conversations among his colleagues. While some expressed sympathy, others voiced criticism. Everyone concurred that the incident had revealed a flaw in the courthouse's security procedures. Caldwell, to his credit, sought out Olivia later that day. He found her in the hallway outside her chambers, waiting for the next case to be called. He said with hesitation, "Judge Bennett, I wanted to apologize for this morning. Although I now realize that I could have handled it differently, I was just trying to do my job." After giving him a brief glance, Olivia nodded. "Thank you, Officer Caldwell. I appreciate your apology. I hope you will attend the training session with us next week." Caldwell agreed, grateful for the chance to make amends. As the day drew to a close, Olivia reflected on the events that had unfolded. Although she was aware that change would not occur immediately, she was encouraged by her co-workers' willingness to learn and listen. She resolved to use her position not just to interpret the law, but to shape the culture of the courthouse, to ensure there was a place where justice was not just done, but seen to be done, for everyone who walked through its doors. The following week, the courthouse buzzed with anticipation as word spread about the upcoming training session. It was the first time in recent memory that a sitting judge would address the entire security staff, and the event drew not only officers but also clerks, attorneys, and even a few curious members of the public. Judge Bennett prepared carefully, determined to approach the session not as a lecture, but as a conversation. She wanted to foster understanding, not resentment, and to help everyone see the courthouse through the eyes of those who might feel like outsiders. On the morning of the training, the main conference room was filled to capacity. Officer Caldwell sat near the front, his posture attentive, a notebook open on his lap. The chief of police, the presiding judge, and several senior staff members took seats along the wall, signaling the importance of the occasion. Olivia began by sharing her story. Not just the events of the previous week, but moments throughout her career when she had been mistaken for a defendant, a clerk, or even a visitor, simply because she didn't fit someone's expectations of what a judge should look like. She spoke candidly about the sting of those moments, but also about the resilience and pride she felt in her work. "We all have a duty to uphold the dignity of this institution," she said, her voice clear and steady. That means treating every person who enters these doors with respect, regardless of their appearance, background, or role. Our actions, even the small ones, send a message about who belongs here and who doesn't. I want that message to be one of welcome, not exclusion. She then invited others to share their experiences. A young Latina clerk spoke about being questioned by security on her first day, while a veteran officer recounted a time he had been mistaken for a janitor when out of uniform. The room grew more animated as people realized how common these moments were and how easily they could be avoided with little awareness and empathy. Officer Caldwell, when his turn came, stood and addressed the group. He acknowledged, "I made a mistake last week. I let my assumptions get in the way of my judgment. I am grateful Judge Bennett gave me the opportunity to learn from his patience, which was greater than I deserved. I hope we can all do better together." The chief of police nodded in agreement, pledging to review protocols and provide ongoing training on bias and cultural competency. The presiding judge announced a new initiative, a courthouse welcome committee staffed by volunteers from every department to greet visitors and ensure that everyone felt seen and respected. The session ended with a standing ovation for Judge Bennett, whose grace and leadership had turned a moment of conflict into an opportunity for growth. As people filed out of the room, conversations continued in the hallways and offices. Staff members who had never spoken before exchanged stories and ideas, while officers discussed ways to improve communication and build trust with the public. Olivia felt a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. She knew that the work was far from over, but she was proud of the progress they had made. That afternoon, as she presided over her courtroom, she noticed a subtle but significant change. The officers at the door greeted her with a smile and a respectful nod. The clerks and attorneys moved with a new sense of confidence, knowing that their presence was valued. Even the public galleries seemed more at ease, as if the very air in the courthouse had shifted. Later that week, Olivia received a handwritten note from Officer Caldwell. "Thank you for your patience and your example." It read, "You've made me a better officer and a better person." The note was a reminder that real change was possible one conversation at a time, and she smiled as she tucked it into her desk drawer. The courthouse, once a place of rigid protocol and unspoken barriers, was becoming a true house of justice, a place where everyone, from the highest judge to the newest visitor, could feel that they belonged. As the months passed, the courthouse continued to evolve, the lessons from Judge Bennett's training session echoing through its marble halls and bustling offices. The welcome committee became a fixture at the entrance, greeting everyone, judges, attorneys, jurors, and visitors alike, with a smile and a helpful word. The security staff, once known for their rigid adherence to protocol, now prided themselves on their professionalism and warmth. Officer Caldwell, who had once been the face of misunderstanding, became a quiet leader among his peers, often reminding new recruits that respect was the foundation of their work. He and Judge Bennett developed a collegial rapport, occasionally sharing coffee in the break room and discussing ways to further improve the courthouse environment. Olivia, for her part, found renewed purpose in her role. She continued to preside over a courtroom with fairness and wisdom, but she also became a mentor to younger judges and staff, encouraging them to use their positions to foster inclusion and dignity. She spoke at legal conferences and community events, describing her encounter with Officer Caldwell as an example of the power of humility, dialogue, and growth rather than a conflict. The courthouse itself became a model for others in the region. Judges from neighboring districts visited to observe the Welcome Committee in action and to attend workshops on cultural competency and bias awareness. The courthouse received an award for innovation in public service from the local Bar Association, citing the transformation as an illustration of how institutions can undergo internal change. The story of Judge Bennett and Officer Caldwell was featured in a national legal journal, sparking conversations in courthouses across the country about the importance of respect and representation. For Olivia, the greatest reward was the change she saw in the people around her. Clerks who had once felt invisible now walked with confidence. Diverse attorneys felt empowered to pursue leadership positions. Even the public, once wary of the imposing building, began to see the courthouse as a place where justice was not just dispensed, but lived. The courthouse celebrated the anniversary of the training session, On the steps where it had all begun, members of the community, judges, and staff gathered. There were speeches and laughter, music and food, and a sense of unity that transcended roles and titles. Officer Caldwell, now a sergeant, spoke briefly, his words humble and heartfelt. "We all make mistakes," he said, "but what matters is what we do next." Judge Bennett showed me that respect isn't just a rule. It's a choice we make every day. Olivia followed, her voice steady and warm. "All of us own this courthouse. Let's keep building a place where everyone is welcome and where justice is more than a verdict. It's a way of treating each other." The crowd erupted in applause, and as the sun set behind the courthouse, Olivia felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She knew there would always be challenges, but she also knew that change was possible, one person, one conversation, one act of courage at a time. As the evening wound down, Olivia lingered on the steps, watching as people mingled and shared stories. Officer Caldwell joined her, and together they looked out over the crowd, proud of what they had helped create. The courthouse, once a symbol of barriers and exclusion, now stood as a beacon of hope and progress, a place where everyone, regardless of background or appearance, could find justice, respect, and a sense of belonging.